What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, like many of you, I'm kind of in this wait-and-see mode when it comes to this Nintendo Switch Pro announcement that is supposedly coming ahead of E3, that according to Eurogamer and Bloomberg. However, last night, something did pop up online from an apparent retailer that has to do with pre-ordering this system, so I figured we'd go over that here today. It was worth bringing to your attention just because we've seen what's going on right now with scalpers online in some of these different systems. Also, we're going to be talking about Nintendo crushing another ROM site in the courtroom, and we did also see PlayStation 5 sales surge as more stocks become available. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Battlefield 6. It's a heavily anticipated game heading into E3, but EA told us that their EA Live that they're going to do, their own kind of event to talk about their games, wouldn't be taking place until the end of July, so we figured we would get a reveal for Battlefield just kind of off on its own with a trailer, and it does look like that will be happening. We can head over here to Twitter, where they say Battlefield reveal June 9th, so next week. They have like a little 10-second teaser here to kind of get everyone excited for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing this game with like a high quality trailer because we've actually seen the trailer leak a couple of times now. They had different like screenshots get out there, then parts of the trailer, and then from what I've heard, like the entire trailer is basically out there, but it's through like the like this potato camera. It looks terrible, so it'll be cool to see it as it's supposed to be seen. And remember, this is heading into E3, and there is a possibility based on rumors that it could even show up at Microsoft's event, maybe with full gameplay, and the possible announcement of it heading to Game Pass day one, as that is a big rumor right now. And we've seen the relationship between EA and Microsoft, so I think it's possible. We'll just have to see about that one on Microsoft's stage, but at least for now, we can look forward to Battlefield 6's big reveal next week. Also, we had some exciting news for Crysis fans, as it looks like Crysis 2 and 3 will both be seeing the remastered treatment. We can actually see the trailer that they put out here. This is Crysis Remastered Trilogy. It'll be on the PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch this fall. Now, Crytek is saying that the games will run even smoother on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. No word on what additional enhancements they'll have there. Could be higher frame rates, could just be higher resolution. Who knows? They might incorporate ray tracing. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff they could do here. And they said that they have more information to share on the Nintendo Switch version of this game later on, which obviously brought up the question of Switch Pro, because everything seems to come back to Switch Pro right now. And hey, you know what? Crysis, that's a good series to kind of show off what the new handheld or hybrid system from Nintendo could do. Sure, I get that. But looking at this, that would mean we have Crysis 1, 2, and 3 all easily accessible by current console owners, which is exciting since that could lead us towards Crysis 4. That's at least the hope for a lot of fans, but it's good to see all three Crysis games heading to these different platforms in a trilogy, and they also mentioned you can just buy one of them if you want. So you don't have to buy like the bundle, you could buy 2 or 3 separately. So looking forward to that. Those will be coming out this fall. Oh, and get this, we had a firmware update for the PlayStation 3. That's right, the PlayStation 3. It's 4.88, and there wasn't a lot of details around what they did exactly here, that being Sony, as of course it was the basic stability updates. But we can take a look here on Twitter. This is from RPCS3. That is the emulator that a lot of people use right now to play PS3 games on their PC, saying PS3 system update 4.88 has just been released for June 1st. The changelog appears to be updated Blu-ray keys for new movie releases and system fixes, possible security fixes. They go on to say that if you have 4.87, you should still be fine using RPCS3. I assume there's nothing critical here for different games that, you know, haven't come out for a while anyway on the PlayStation 3. But it was just odd to see it in like pop up and it's like, oh yeah, the PS3 got a system firmware update. It's weird to see that, or like the Wii U get one, and we've seen that recently as well. I think even like the 3DS. So sure, these companies do continue to update these. However, this one kind of makes sense if it has to do with Blu-ray keys for newer movies, just to make sure if you're just using it as a Blu-ray player, it would still work. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with this Nintendo Switch Pro, which, I mean, it's the biggest topic because everyone's kind of hanging out waiting for it to be announced, since Bloomberg and Eurogamer basically put like a time frame on it. Hey, it's going to happen the next like week and a half basically, and a lot of people are thinking it's going to happen this week. Could happen today, could even happen tomorrow. Thursday seems to be one that a lot of people are kind of pointing towards now, so maybe we could see it pop up on Thursday, but we did have this tweet that was put out last night, and this is from Centro Leaks. I know Centro Leaks has been, we'll say, spotty in the past. It still is something worth just keeping in mind. And like I said, I think it's worth bringing at least to your attention just in case this turns out to be absolutely correct, saying we have received and verified a screenshot from a big retailer's internal system that shows a new Switch hardware-related listing will go live on June 4th around midnight. They also went on to say that that's Central Standard Time, so you can kind of look that up in, I guess, in a time zone converter based on the time zone you're in. And I would say that's going into Friday then, is kind of the way I'm reading this here. They say that's all we have for now. There's no other data attributes in the listing currently. And they also go on a little further, saying also worth noting that this specific listing is a non-US listing from a US retailer. That should give you a hint what retailer it is. Hey, we'll kind of leave that out there, let the internet decide on that one, kind of speculate a bit there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because if a retailer has a page set to go live at a certain date, which appears to be like midnight on Friday coming up here, which I think is 1 a.m. Eastern time on Friday is basically what they're saying here, there is a possibility that that page could end up going live with a pre-order button. And we know what happens here with these bots, right? We see the PS5s pop up and they're gone immediately. And they show up on eBay, double or even triple the price. What do you think's gonna happen with this Switch Pro or this new Nintendo Switch? There's a lot of anticipation around it, much, much more than the Switch Lite when that came out. And that was actually pretty easy to get a hold of. Even the red box Switch was all right. I saw some people have a hard time getting it, but to be honest, I walked into a GameStop and picked it up without any issue. But as soon as we start seeing things like 4K being advertised for the Switch, you better believe people are going to get their current Switch systems and trade them in to try to get this new one. I think it's going to be a very hot item for Nintendo, especially as we head into the holidays, which means it's going to be a very hot item for scalpers as well. Now, I will say, in the past, Nintendo's been a little bit better about pre-orders going live and at least communicating to retailers. I assume it's going to be much better than what we had with like the PlayStation. Remember that whole thing where retailers they went live immediately. Like pre-orders, as soon as the pricing was announced and release date, it appeared that you could just go to your local GameStop and just pre-order the thing. That was before like Sony had actually announced the pre-orders were live. So that's the reason I'm bringing this up here, because there is a possibility, you never know with retailers, that they could just go live with it and then it's just a mad scramble and a mad dash to try to get these pre-orders in. So I figured, hey, we'd at least bring it up as a just-in-case scenario, so that way you at least have as much information as possible, because this thing gets announced like today or tomorrow on Thursday, it's going to be all over the internet. It's going to be a very interesting day, I'll say that. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 in the UK, as we did get UK sales charts, and they looked a little strange this week, mostly because the #1 game was Spider-Man Miles Morales, and a lot of people saw it and said, really? That's the #1 game? It's not Biomutant? Well, apparently they got a bunch of PlayStation 5 systems in at different retail locations in the UK, and we can see the charts here, starting with Spider-Man Miles Morales at #1. It wasn't at 4, but it jumped all the way up to #1, as they did have apparently a sizable stock come into different retail stores for the PS5. Biomutant debuts at #2, so unfortunately did miss out on that #1 spot. The Last of Us Part 2 saw a pretty large discount, down to, they were saying like 10 or 15, so that's pretty good for Last of Us Part 2. Remember, it also has that enhancement patch that was put out for the PlayStation 5, so you have that out there in the news, and then PS5s are back in stock. Maybe they're buying that with Spider-Man Miles Morales. Then you have Resident Evil Village, that dropped down to #4 from that #1 spot. Assassin's Creed Valhalla jumped up heavily to 5. That was also another game that saw a pretty sizable discount. Animal Crossing New Horizons it kind of hangs out in like that 5, 6, or 7 slot. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, because why not? FIFA 21, Miitopia dropping down to 9, and then Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury at 10. Now, I do want to make mention that these are all like physical over-the-counter copies of the game, so it's not like digital sales. It's basically walking to a retail store, you buy it, and you go home with it. That is what they're tracking here. But still, it is interesting to see the PS5 comes back into stock, and then even games that released at launch for the system that was also on the PS4, it gets sold with that PS5. Like, people could have been playing Spider-Man Miles Morales on their PlayStation 4 at the end of last year, but there are probably quite a few people who just held off. So Sony kind of keeping their games like a Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS5 at or close to full price does make sense currently with the stock situation that we are seeing. And there was also a report put out from gamesindustry.biz that the PS5 is the leading seller right now in the UK above the Xbox and the Switch, apparently by a fair margin. So as Sony can stock these systems, they continue to sell. And the biggest thing here, though, is that the software goes with it, like, easily. Spider-Man Miles Morales jumping to the #1 slot in the UK. I mean, that's a pretty big deal considering it's months and months old. So hopefully Sony can continue to get more and more PlayStation 5 systems out there. One, so that scalpers can't keep charging over $1,000 for these systems. And two, so people can pick them up and then also get software, which is really what Sony is looking for in the first place. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and ROM Universe. Now, we've seen Nintendo in the news quite a bit when it comes to the courtroom, and especially when it comes to different ROM websites that Nintendo will have copyright strikes on, DMCAs, all these different things to have them pulled down and have those ROMs basically erased from the internet. It's something that Nintendo has been doing for a while now. However, this was an interesting story because the person attempted to defend themselves in court without an attorney, and it didn't turn out too well for ROM Universe. We can actually head over here to VGC, where they said Nintendo has won $2.1 million in damages in a lawsuit against now closed pirate site ROM Universe. The California lawsuit, which Nintendo filed in September 2019, alleged that the owner of the site, Matthew Storman, uploaded and distributed pirated Nintendo games and profited from mass-scale copyright infringement by charging paid subscriptions. Now, what's interesting here is Storman originally denied actually uploading ROMs to the website, but then actually admitted that he did. It was very strange, but this was a quote from the judge saying, defendant filed a declaration in opposition to the motion wherein he declares that he denies and disputes that he uploaded any files to said website, and at no time did he verify the content of said ROM file, which is directly contradictory to his sworn deposition testimony wherein he testified that he uploaded the ROM files onto his website. So basically when he was sworn in, the story changed a bit there. Furthermore, defendant testified as deposition that his website indicated that copies of Nintendo's copyrighted video games were available for download on the website. And to go further still, he was actually also charging money, like a subscription service for unlimited access, which I'm sure would include things like faster download speeds and just being able to download as much as you want. And then on top of that, it appeared that he was also using Nintendo imagery, like characters or backgrounds for Nintendo games on the website itself. I don't really see how there was any real defense as to what was going on here, especially when you are profiting and distributing Nintendo's games, obviously seen as piracy, all at once, and then also putting Mario right on the front of the West. It wasn't going to work out. Now, it also cost, of course, $2.1 million in damages paid out to Nintendo, and the site's gone. So yeah, it did not work out well. And the fact that you go there without an attorney, they probably could have at least tried to save you some money by saying, you know what, this probably isn't a good idea to go forward with this. And Nintendo's going to make every example they can so that people don't try to open up these websites and profit from it, or even just having the websites in general. Just distributing these games that Nintendo may add to the Super Nintendo, Nintendo Switch Online, or Nintendo, or who knows, N64 and so on, is enough for Nintendo to go after these sites and try to shut them down. Because yes, they are, I mean, they're games. What else can you really say from that? It is interesting that Nintendo decides to go after a lot of these sites, though, because you figure, okay, they're small enough and it's not worth their time. But this one in particular seemed to really push Nintendo over the edge, and they figured, all right, we'll make an example out of you in the courtroom for millions of dollars. That way, the next time someone thinks about opening up a ROM site and they want to include Nintendo games, they'll look this one up. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a couple of video cards that most of us probably won't be able to buy even if we wanted to. That's right, NVIDIA announced the 3080 Ti and the 3070 Ti, while most of us can't even find a 3080. Now, the 3080 Ti is coming out tomorrow, actually June 3rd, whereas the 3070 Ti will be waiting a week until June 10th to release. We can take a look at the charts here. This compares the 3080 Ti against the 3090 and the 3080, and you know what? I gotta give them credit. The 3080 Ti is pretty close to the 3090 with things like the memory, for example, being cut in half there. It is coming in at $1,200, or in the aftermarket, I guess about 2 to 3 times that. Has the same power draw as the 3090, but we can see things like CUDA cores being cut down. I already mentioned the RAM, some tensor cores, and of course, the clock speeds themselves lowered slightly. And then we have the 3070 Ti here with the slide that they released, and they do show a price of $600, again coming out next week, with apparently a speed comparison here of 1.5 times what the RTX 2070 Super was able to do. But looking up and down the charts here when it comes to pricing, the 3080 still seems to be the best value. The only issue is we can't find the card anywhere. At least I haven't been able to, not at its suggested retail price of about $700. Looking at the 3080 Ti, I don't know if that price increase is like reflected in the performance, if it's worth going up to that. I guess if you can only find that one, still comes in a little less than what we're seeing 3080s right now in the aftermarket. So there you go, I guess, with that one. But I will be curious to see the benchmarks that are put out for this. But the biggest thing is people are gonna look at this and say, why are you introducing extra cards when we're just asking you to make more of the 3080? But realistically, NVIDIA probably had this planned out for a while now, and they're just, hey, here's 2 more cards we're gonna just throw out there and see what happens. Here's hoping they can also get more 3080s out there for anyone who's still looking for these cards. Like, I'm still looking for one, and it would be nice if they were able to get production going a bit better on the 3080, rather than introduce a $1,200 3080 Ti. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where he said, have video card stock issues and prices caused you to put off building a PC? 62% of you said yes, prices are out of control. 36% said no, I'm not looking to build or upgrade a PC right now. And then 3% said, I just decided to pay the high price and secure a GPU anyway. Hey, if you're someone who hasn't upgraded their GPU in a while, it might have been worth it just to buy a video card, especially if you had to, and just pay the inflated price. It's really frustrating to have to deal with that though, but I have seen a lot of people even say, you know what? I'm just getting a pre-build because the video card in that computer is worth more than all the components combined right now in the aftermarket. So I'll pay the couple $100 extra to have it built for me so I can make sure I have that certain GPU. That's just where we are now. It's like, it's cheaper to get a pre-build than it is to build it yourself now, sometimes by several $100s. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Natch saying, like a lot of others have said, there isn't really a sound for the CH in in English. The best way is to just let Google Translate read it out for you in German. And unlike a lot of people say, it is not pronounced as Coke. And you know what? I did check that out for Google Translate, and they just kind of give up on the CH. It's just like, and they're like, that's it. So maybe they're gonna show up with this event and it's just co-media. Okay, well, we can go with that. But if you put it in Google Translate, it does translate apparently to Coke. So maybe that's why people are saying, oh, it's Coke Media. Apparently, looking at Google Translate, it's just Co. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Where's this Nintendo Switch Pro and the pre-order situation? Are you just now reminded of that and like, oh no, I am gonna have to possibly fight off scalpers to get one of these systems, provided it actually gets announced, of course. Let me know your thoughts and even your strategies around this one. Also, what about Nintendo in the courtroom against these different ROM sites? Do you think Nintendo should be going after all these different ROM sites, or are you concerned that a lot of these ROMs could just disappear forever? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.